does this controller really make you a better gamer? I've had a couple months with it, I've tested it, played a few games with it, and it might just make you a better gamer. Let's go ahead and review it and get right into the video. So I have the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, and I kind of want to review it. I've actually unboxed this controller, and if you want to check out that video, to be either in the top right or left of the screen. I've had this for a couple months now, and I've been waiting to review this thing for you. So to give you a little bit of a backstory, I'm mainly a PC gamer, but I just tend to use controller. So I had the basic Xbox controller. I think it's like $50 or $60. I didn't have any issues with it necessarily, but when you're playing games like COD, just having those back kind of paddles really helps to kind of give you a competitive advantage. And I already had a competitive advantage because I have a PC. So I just wanted kind of more of a competitive edge with having these paddles in the back. I know a lot of players that play with it, and probably a lot of people that I'm playing against are using controllers like this, either Scuff, Elite. I know there's a couple different brands out there. So I had a bunch of friends tell me, Kyle, you need to get the controller. When you get the controller, buy the controller. And so I finally just picked it up, and I really wanted to test it out and just kind of get a good review. If I didn't like it, I probably would have returned it. This isn't sponsored by Xbox, but I wanted to try it out at least. Everyone was telling me how great it was, and now I kind of have a full review for you. First, let's talk about the build quality. Compared to the basic Xbox controller, if you ever held one in your hand, it's very cheap and plasticky. I actually have it right here. Obviously, you're not feeling it in your hands, but it's just one kind of plastic shell or two pieces that are put together, and you can kind of just tell it's more of a cheap plastic, where as soon as you pick this up, it just feels more solid. You have these kind of rubberized grips, so it kind of gives you a better feel in the hand, whereas this is just kind of a slippery plastic. But everything just feels better built. I mean, obviously for the price range, you would hope you'd get a better built controller. But everything from the joysticks to the D-pad, which you can switch out, which is also a very awesome feature. I'll get that in a little bit. But everything, the buttons just feel more high quality. Yeah, just everything feels super high quality. I mean, even down to the paddles, they just feel super well made. And the money that you're paying extra compared to like a basic controller just makes sense, and you can really feel where that money is going toward. Next thing I want to talk about is the packaging. If you haven't watched the unboxing video, you'll see the packaging that it comes in. But if you're traveling, if you're doing competitive gaming and you're traveling a lot, the fact that they just give you this case that has the charger in it, and has all of your kind of components that you can replace the joysticks and the D-pad, and your pick to adjust the joystick. I'm not traveling a lot. I'm not doing competitive gaming in that sense. But it is nice to have if I ever do travel, or if I'm going to a friend's house or whatever it is. It's nice to just have this case. You're paying so much money for it. It's nice that they kind of throw this in there. Typically, it's just plugged into my PC, so I'm not really ever charging it. But if you had kind of a living room setup where you have an Xbox, it probably would be really cool just to have this in your media console and literally just lay it in there and kind of zip it up until you actually use it. But overall, packaging is great. I love having the case. It's like this hard shell case, but it keeps the controller nice and safe if you're ever going to travel. So let's talk a little bit about the setup. So there's actually an app on Windows, which is what I'm using. I'm not aware of Xbox, but at least on PC, there's this app that you can download and basically configure what you want the triggers to do. So for example, I think, let's give an example of COD. I might have this bottom one for like maybe sliding, the one on top of that for switching my guns, maybe this one for jumping. So you can really just configure it to exactly how you want it, depending on the game that you're playing. And it's not necessarily the individual game, it's more the app and then whatever game you're playing. So you basically replace it. So like this one will be A, and you can use both. It's not like it disables this A right here. You can use this as A, this is X, this is Y. There's a lot of different configurative options on the app. That's basically what you're doing. You're making these an A, a X, a B button. And it doesn't take away the normal ones. So you have both if you want to use both. In sense of the different attachments, I kind of switched back and forth. I started off with this kind of shorter, kind of more rounded mushroom top kind of joystick for the right one. I wasn't the hugest fan of it. I tried it for a little bit. They have the extended one as well. Tried that on the left joystick. That didn't work. Tried on the right. So I messed around a little bit with trying the different joysticks. I ended up just kind of going back with the ones that came on the controller. but it is nice to have extra ones. They have the normal size ones as well, so if you, heaven forbid, I don't think they will, but if these ever wear or tear, you can just replace it with the other ones. But it's just funny how I kind of went back to the ones that came as it shipped. But I did try the other attachments and joysticks that they have. But that's definitely a nice feature to have, I think. Maybe if you have longer thumbs and you want your thumb more up here, you can use the longer attachment. If you kind of play more on the outer side of the joystick, you can use kind of the mushroom shaped one. That's how I explain it. But it's nice that they offer that, and it's so easily just to take it off, it magnetized back on. I haven't taken the D-pad off. I don't mind this. I don't use it that often. And the paddles are super nice, super clicky. You can take these off, but I don't know why you necessarily would. Maybe for when you're shipping it or traveling with it. But yeah, paddles are super high quality, and they have placements all in the case for you to put them in there when you're traveling. Now, most importantly, let's talk performance/gaming. So performance. It's sad to say, and it could just be this controller. My friend has dealt with it, not when he first bought it, but kind of more down the line since he's owned it. But there is a little bit of controller drift, so I don't know. I'm wired. I don't know if there's something with the wiring, but there is a little bit of controller drift. This one was, the basic controller was starting to get that. I've had this for like a year or so now. So that was another reason to upgrade, but there is a little bit of controller drift. A little concerning. I do have a warranty through Microsoft. This is where I bought it through, but it is a little concerning that there was some controller drift, especially for a brand new controller. But other than that, let's talk about the gaming. I am about 6 foot. I have bigger hands, so I was very interested to see to actually get it in my hands and play with it. Feel where the placement was of my fingers and with the paddles, and I'm kind of torn on it. So it's definitely a learning curve. If you've never used a controller with back paddles, it's a little bit of a learning curve. It takes probably at least say a couple weeks. Maybe some are quicker learners, but for me at least, I kept wanting to press the original buttons because that's what I'm so used to for gaming on a controller that doesn't have back paddles for so long. So it's been definitely a learning curve for me, but I almost feel like they're too close together. I've talked to people that have it and they don't feel that way, and they also have bigger hands. But maybe if you have smaller hands, you wouldn't even think twice about it. But for me, it felt like sometimes when I was trying to like slide cancel or jump or reload my gun, it just felt like my fingers were kind of too close together when I was pressing it. But as I've been playing with the controller more and more, I feel like I can get my fingers to a certain position. So maybe it's not as close, and maybe even pressing more of like the bottom part of the lever or the paddle. But over time, and the more and more I've used it, I've gotten more comfortable with it. So I think your hands just kind of adapt, and usually my fingers are on the back. They're not really doing much, obviously, other than the triggers. But I feel like with this, it just took a while for my fingers to kind of adapt to having paddles and finding the right placement. But I do feel like it's a little close, and kind of the joints between my two fingers kind of rub against each other a lot. But maybe over time and more months that I keep playing, I'll just get more used to having, you know, that right position that works for me. But overall, if you're looking to kind of get a competitive advantage over the other players, this controller is great. To be able to prone, to slide cancel, and not take your thumb off of the joystick, it's an awesome feature to have, and I definitely think it gives you advantage to be able to prone, whatever it is, whatever game you're playing. It's a whole thing to be able to take your thumb off the joystick to a button, then back to the joystick. So to be able to have those paddles, it just makes your life so much easier. But as well as the throw is something that I'm absolutely in love with. So you have these different adjustments for the trigger, I would call it throw. So you have the normal one, which allows the trigger to go all the way down, and then you can adjust it to the shortest, which I think is absolutely awesome and gives you a real competitive advantage. But it goes super short. So it's only going, I don't know how many millimeters that would be, but you have the full throw, which is what I'm used to with the older controller. But then all of a sudden you shorten that throw, and it's taking you less time to either shoot or to aim down. So you can even do it with the left and the right. So you're aiming down quicker and you're shooting quicker. So not only are you getting a competitive advantage of not having to take your thumb off of the joystick, but you're also getting shorter throws. So you're aiming quicker and you're shooting quicker in whatever game that you're playing. But overall, from the build to the packaging and case that it comes into, to the competitive advantage that it gives you, I think overall for the money that you're paying, I think you're getting a controller that's absolutely worth it. I know the competitor that kind of competes with this controller is probably Scuff. They're probably about the same price range, maybe a little more. But I thoroughly enjoy this controller other than the drift and getting used to the kind of paddles that are so close to each other. It's just a great controller overall, super high quality build. I think it's worth the money that you're paying for it. I think this is going to last a while. And especially with like Microsoft. So if you buy through Microsoft, you can get a 3-year warranty. I think Best Buy offers up to 2 years, but Microsoft, you can buy it directly through them. You get a 3-year warranty. If anything goes wrong with it, it's like accidental. So you can just ship it back and either they'll fix it or probably just send you a new one. But if you're looking for a competitive advantage and you've been looking for a controller that has the paddles on the back, I would highly recommend looking into this. I know Microsoft has like a 30-day kind of refund policy. So if you want to try it out and you don't like it, just send it back. I think you will like it if you're used to Xbox controllers. You know, if you're using like PS5 controllers and stuff like that, you're probably going to want to go towards Scuff because this is just strictly Xbox. If you have an Xbox or you have a PC and you really want to try this out and you want to have some paddles in the back and give yourself a competitive advantage, I would definitely go just to pick this up. Like I said, you can return it if you don't like it, but I think you're gonna like it. I did an unboxing, so again, you can top right or left of the screen, you can go check that out. But I've been waiting to review this controller for a couple months now. I wanted to get a good period of time to actually test this out, the pros, cons, but overall, I think it's a great controller. If you like the video, go ahead and leave a like. Leave comments down below. I read all of them. I reply to all the comments. I love talking to you guys. If you have any recommendations for future reviews, future unboxings, we're gonna keep producing awesome videos for this channel. Subscribe means the world to me, and I will see you in the next video.